How you guys doing? Hope you're doing well. For KFO 1-6. I think I've probably been over this before, but good to go over your learning. Yeshua ben Parakia and Nittai the Arbalite received the oral tradition from Yosei ben Yochanan of Jerusalem and from the fathers before him. Yeshua ben Parakia used to say, "Appoint for thyself a teacher, and acquire for thyself a companion, and judge all men with a scale weighted in his favor." Rambam says, "Make for yourself a mentor" means that even if he is not fit to be your mentor, still place him upon you as a mentor so that you can give and take, so you can discuss and argue with him, and as a result of this study, wisdom will come to your hand. As a study of a man on his own is good, but his study from someone else will better establish in his hand and will be more clear, and even if he is like him in wisdom or below him. And so did they elucidate the explanation of this commandment. And he said, "Acquire for yourself a friend." He said it was an expression of acquisition. He did not say, "Make yourself a friend" or "befriend others." The intention of this is that a person must acquire a friend for himself, so that all of his deeds and all of his matters be refined through him. As they said, either a friend or death. And if he does not find him, he must make efforts for it with all his heart, and even if he must lead him to his friendship until he becomes a friend. And then he must never let off from following his friend's will until his friendship is firmed up. As the master of ethics says, when you love, do not love according to your traits, but rather love according to the trait of your friend. Basically, the friend that you're supposed to acquire is by any means, or not any means, but a person has to go so far as to even buy friendship. Good afternoon, Joshua Taft. I'm doing well. Hope you are also. Even if you have to pay for this friendship, and the friendship they're referring to is not the friendship most people think about. It's like a friendship of a real friend, someone who is has decent character traits, decent midot, and observe Torah, and someone who will rebuke you when you go astray. That's why they use the word acquire, like even if you have to pay somebody, because someone who observes the Torah, even though they may not want to to rebuke someone because it's socially uncomfortable, or the person is a higher stature, or like in the community, or they're older. If they're paid to do the job of rebuke, they have to, otherwise they're a thief. So the payment in that regard keeps the person honest. I mean, ideally, you wouldn't have to pay for someone to rebuke you to be a real friend. And I doubt any of us will have have the concern of being held in high enough for esteem by by others that we'd have to pay for the honesty of a rebuke. It's still good to know, though. The acquire for yourself a teacher, or not acquire, make for yourself a teacher. That's because a person doesn't pay for the Torah. The Torah is free. A person might say, well, how can it be where some people pay for a teacher to teach their kids, or pay to go to a yeshiva? See, unfortunately, things are kind of screwed up. The way things were supposed to work is people were supposed to, people with the money or the parnasah, the blessings that God gave them, they were supposed to see that, that people needed teachers, and of their own accord to make the conditions for basically providing everything necessary for people without the money to be able to teach and learn, of the older generation that were already learned in Torah, to be able to have a place to live and food to eat, to not be able to have to worry about any physical needs, so that all that they had to do was teach Torah, and so that anyone, regardless of their income level, could send their kids or go themselves and learn. But since people since a lot of people with money have a hard time fighting their yetzer hara, their evil inclination to do what is, what they should do, they have to, I can't recall the rabbi's full name, but it's I think it's something like Rabbi Volozhin. I think he's from Lithuania, from around the 1700s. He's the guy he's the rabbi, the Chachamim, the Torah scholar that that developed what turned into the modern yeshiva system. He saw that that people were not learning as much, and the Torah was being forgotten. So we set up a system where kids would come and learn mostly for free. People that had people that could afford would pay for their kids, and then the people with a decent amount of wealth would support those that couldn't pay. But it's also one of those things that's kind of hard to understand for some people, is God's great mercy. Because most people don't have the ability to earn the amount of merits or the inclination or time or whatever to be able to learn that that much, that intensely. So God gives people the ability to become a partner in their learning. So people can take their extra money. It's even a lot of people that are poor still have what's really extra money, even though it may not be much most of the time. I mean, not everyone's obviously like that, but most people in the Western world have more money than they really need. Definitely enough money to get themselves in a lot of trouble. That's the only law that matters. But I finally appointed myself a teacher. I mean, at first it was just kind of like the modern version of reading, but through God's infinite mercy, I was kind of forced into it. I mean, not forced, but like pushed in that direction. Everyone needs if at all possible, and these days, if you have an internet connection, it's possible. It may not be as quick or as personalized as someone might like, but it's definitely still possible. Everyone can have a teacher, someone that they can double check things with. I learned I've been trying to be more cautious of the things that I say, and boy, I'm sure I always fail to meet the standards on that. I always try to do a self-accounting and make sure I'm not going off the rails too far. And I was listening to a lecture by Rabbi Aaron Rubin recently where he said some Noahide dude asked if it was okay for Noahides to learn the Talmud or anything else, and he said no, and I mean I knew that. Then he said, no learning the what is it? No learning the Mishnah or anything outside of the Torah, the Tanakh, with commentary and Musar books. And I thought, oh man, I'm gonna have to delete I was to delete all these streams where I've been talking about Perkea Vote because I realized like the day before I watched the lecture that Perkea Vote was from the Mishnah, and so I was and I've been having a weird time with the Yetzer Hara lately. Like lots of weird thoughts and emotions that are like come and go. And I was arguing with myself whether to send my rabbi this question and like how to phrase it. And thankfully, I was granted the strength to overpower the Yetzer Hara and send the question. And man, Baruch Hashem, he was merciful, and I got an answer. It wouldn't have mattered if it was the answer that I was looking for, or hoped for, or what. All that matters is if I accepted it as the truth and did it. There's lots of people shop around for rabbis, or not for rabbis. I guess they shop around for answers until they get an answer that they're looking for. Generally, something that tells them whatever that they're doing is fine and they don't have to change, or whatever answer that puts their situation, whatever they perceive as the best for themselves, which is just the entirely wrong way to look at things. The answer that's best for people is the truth. And the best course of action is to put it into practice. Anything else is not good. See, the reason why a person needs a teacher, someone that knows what they're doing, someone that's learned already, that has fear of heaven and has attained some wisdom in Torah, so that they can tell them, how to read things and the right way to go. Because by my own reasoning, my answer would have been wrong. I would have thought, since a goy is not supposed to learn anything outside of the Torah, the Tanakh, with commentary from Rashi and the Mishnah, or not the Mishnah. That's not right at all. That's wrong. The Musar books, or stuff about character development and ethics. I would have thought, even though Pirkei Avot is Musar, I would have thought because it is in the Mishnah, it's it's off limits. Maybe not to listen to, like a lecture from a rabbi, but I would have thought it's off limits for a goy to read, but it's not. There's all kinds of like what seem like broad sweeping statements or generalities that are true for the most part, but then there's all kinds of like really widespread variances on, like, something may apply to a certain person or set of people under a certain circumstance, or maybe forbidden under, to other people or under another set of circumstances. And a person just doesn't know unless they learn. It takes it takes a long time to learn. That's one thing that is frustrating, seeing people that are seeing people that know just enough to build themselves a nice place in the 7th level of Gehinnom, because they think they know Torah. And I mean, the people know basically nothing. I mean, there's always levels of knowledge, but even the wisest of the Jewish sages that spent their entire lives delving into the Torah not only said, they knew that what they knew was like just so minimal of what there is to know. And then people who really learned absolutely nothing other than like a few phrases that they heard in a prayer book or in the Torah from attending a lecture or hearing a rabbi online or something like that. People that either treat the Torah casually, or they have, like Rabbi Aaron Rubin says, they have an Erev Rav instead of a Rav. Not that that's really funny. It's pretty horrifying. But to see people think they know stuff, or to think that, to want to learn things, but to want to learn everything except for what what's going to keep them alive, what's going to keep them out of Gehinnom, what's going to really be good for them. They absolutely don't want to learn. They don't want to take the time to do. They'll learn about music and science and all kinds of new and old idol worship and math and computers and art. And spend hours upon hours upon hours doing all kinds of just stupid nonsense. Total shtuyot. And then wonder why all these curses come into their life. Why everything's hard. Why they have all these horrible thoughts and evil desires. What are you doing? Killing yourself. God have mercy on us all, please. There's one thing about person can find truth in everything. Even in lies. And there's bits and pieces of the truth that a person can find, not only in secular studies like math and science, but also in, disgusting idol worship, both new and old. But a person's never going to find the whole truth anywhere other than in the Torah. The reason why people don't want to admit that is because it obligates them to do a lot. Primarily, it obligates them to do a self-accounting and to admit that they've done a whole lot of wrong. And maybe even more in the front of a person's concerns on that regard is it forces them to have to admit that the things that they do of their own desires is against the Torah, and either admit it and stop, or or internalize a sense of guilt for their crimes. And so it's easiest if they can just act like, for most people, either just God doesn't exist, God forbid, or that he's not who he is. They say they try to make him out to be some merciful, understanding God, because they can do whatever they want to, and he'll still love them, and won't all the curses in the Torah won't happen to them, both in this world and the next. But the ignorance and stupidity and sheer arrogance of that kind of thinking is just astounding once a person learns any amount of Torah at all. At least with the right ideology, the right way to think. That's why one of the most important things I think anyone should learn, if they're going to start learning, if you want to seek the truth and put it into practice in your life, a person needs to learn what's called Jewish hashkafa. And it's not just Jewish. It's the ideology and how to think of the Torah, how every human being should think. I think it should be in the description of most of these streams. At least, the ones from the last couple months or so. Or you can just search Jewish hashkafa on YouTube and find Rabbi Aaron Rubin's lecture series. The really early ones Like from the start, the series started right when COVID happened. They're pretty good. But what a person really does when they say things like God is only love, or you know, or they think that they can do whatever they want, and God's gonna just accept it. What they're really doing is complete idol worship, avodah zarah. They worship themselves. That's what a person does when they make those kind of statements or things like that. They turn themselves into God. Because the Torah definitely doesn't say anything remotely like that. But the only way any of this is going to stick is if you pick a teacher that teaches the truth, and that's at the very least, that's your main source of where you learn, especially the first year or so at least, is to not have anything else that conflicts with 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 the truth, and in the way that the teacher that you've chosen to learn from teaches. And a person definitely, you know, you're not going to have any luck, or not luck, but luck doesn't exist. You're not going to have any success if you just go fishing around for what you think is the truth from a rabbi or a priest or a shaman or some internet guru or new age website or some secular studies professor. Like if you pick and choose from the Torah and from idol worship and from your math and history professor, all you're going to end up with is just a bag of confusion in your head. Or I should say a cloud is probably more accurate. Because every time you hear the truth of the Torah, the Satan is going to be whispering all those other things that you put in there. Like, oh, maybe that's not right. This idol worshiper said that. Or this atheist, said that the earth is 3 billion years old, or people came from monkeys. God is 3 people, God forbid, even though we don't really know what that means. So while it's good, it's good to have to learn things from different sources. At least as far as a person's connection to God, all those sources should be people that adhere to the Torah and nothing else. A person can still learn, whatever other studies, if they pertain to earning a living or whatever like that. But the thing to know is a person's income comes from the creator of everything and nowhere else. And whatever money you're going to get is decided every year on Rosh Hashanah. The only way that amount is going to change is if a person commits more sins or they do more teshuvah. Other than that, it is a set amount. There's no there's no there's no amount of overtime or extra learning or extra jobs or anything that can alter it. A person doesn't need to go to school to make money. What they really need is faith in God and to know that He is the source of all sustenance for all creatures, all of His creations, everything from the ant to a human being. As weird as this sounds, even the hairs on a person's head and which one lives or dies is decided on Rosh Hashanah. People are in such a bad way. People are so lost and so far from the truth. There's a few ways where how the truth can come to a person, and they're begin their process of teshuva. Unfortunately, most people don't take the easy way, and generally wait till they really have no other choice, till they're down on their knees with mental and physical suffering. Then a person can see the truth. Not just do teshuva, but they can attain wisdom through that process. But only because the act of suffering that brought them to their knees makes a person humble. Without that humility, it's just a law of creation that the wisdom cannot come to a person without that humility. It's impossible. At least real wisdom, not the wisdom of the goyim, wisdom of the Torah. Of which all the wisdom of the goyim is contained in the Torah anyway. It's just most people haven't found it yet. Just a moment. Gotta get some water. I'm reminded of something I said a while ago that what was definitely a lie. Reminded by drinking water. I said water is life. That is definitely not true. The creator of everything is life. Water is just a vessel. It seems like a contradiction, like a catch 22. Like the only way to become a great man, a great person, is to think that you're absolutely nothing at all. But it is what it is. I'm sure there's lots of secrets in there somewhere. Most important thing for people to know is that what we want doesn't matter unless we want is what he wants. Lots of people think they know what that is. Lots of people are wrong. The only way to even start to figure out what that is to find a teacher that teaches the truth in the Torah, which is going to be what most people call a Jew. To be extremely humble and always go through a self-accounting. Always have a great deal of fear of doing the wrong thing, so that you'll double check to make sure over and over again until it becomes second nature, which for most people is going to take their entire lives. With a great deal of his help, maybe I'll get there one day. Howdy, sir. Most important thing that God cares about is that his kids observe the Torah. I mean, it's good if the nations do teshuvah, and observe the laws that we're supposed to. Because, there should be someone for his kids to teach once the redemption happens. But it's all going to be kind of pointless if not only is there no students, but there's no teachers once it happens. The best way for most people to do that is to find lectures that are from strong speakers like Rabbi Aaron Rubin or Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi, or Rabbi Alon Anabah. The best thing to do is just to pick one rabbi, and that's all the lectures that you share, and then just post links and video clips and whatever you can wherever you have access to. Or if you live somewhere where it's in proximity to a Jewish community, you get physical kiruv materials from Bezrat Hashem. But if you're a goy, you probably want to be careful about doing that, because they'll probably think you're a missionary at first if you're not wearing. You shouldn't wear a costume. I was thinking about printing out all kinds of stupid flyers to promote a worthless YouTube account. Thankfully, I've decided against that. Even though there's not a large Jewish community here that I know of, anyway, I would like to make some make or acquire some physical kiruv materials, like either CDs with QR codes or flyers or something, and then just walk or ride my bike around this summer and stick them in under windshield wipers and other places where people would see them, where they, people that need to see. See things to save their life. Have you guys had any failures or successes lately? I've been trying to refocus my efforts for the last few months. Actually, it's been a really long, slow process. But it's just picked up speed recently. One one thing Rabbi Yaron Rubin said about how you can tell if what you're doing, in regards to kiruv or to sharing Torah is really working, or it's going to have some kind of effort or effect, is when the Satan really starts screwing with you. At first, it was just like half the screen recordings that I did. I couldn't get, for some reason when I try to import them into the video editing software to cut them into clips, they would not have any audio. Like half the clips didn't have any audio. At first, I didn't know how to rectify that. Then I figured out a workaround. I could there's like some setting where you like click the like right click on the file, and you can do an audio encode, and it will take and record like an MP3 or a WAV file or something from the video. So then I'd have to import both the video and the audio file together, and then like match them up, and then cut the clips from that. What's weird, there's no like rhyme or reason. There's no difference in files, like file types. Like they're all MP4s. At least most of them. But it would make no sense like why one would have audio in the video editing software and one wouldn't. There was something else, but I can't remember what it is right now. How's your guys' teshuva coming? If you're having a hard time with fighting the Yetzer Hara, force yourself to do the things that I said about kiruv, about sharing the Torah however you can, whether if you have extra money that you don't need, or it's just going to go to stupid stuff, make a donation somewhere that isn't going to use it to cause people to sin, that that teaches the Torah and helps people to do teshuva. I can only recommend BezratHashem.org. And other than that, just post links wherever you can, post clips, and just make it a steady, constant practice. Like start out with once a day, if that's all you can manage to fight to get. Share. Most important thing is to share whatever you're learning. Hopefully it's not this. Hopefully it's something more. Something from a real rabbi. And just like you're learning, stick with it. Make a plan. Make it something reasonable, something that you can manage. But then once you lay down a foundation of behavior of learning and sharing, constantly, pushed to learn more and share more until eventually you do virtually no other extracurricular activities other than learning and sharing. And whatever minimal exercise a person needs to not die or have health issues. And whatever effort a person needs to have food and shelter and heat. Outside of that, a person's goal should be to do nothing else other than learn the Torah, learn and share the Torah. And like I mentioned in numerous streams and in some of the gardening videos, a person can learn the Torah from everything if they have a base of knowledge from the physical written Torah to work with and from lectures that they watched. Everything from weeding to processing garlic and everything in between. But not everyone has a place where they can grow food. So the goal that a person should have is to find that same kind of thing, in their own life, however they can. A person can see it in literally anything, whether it's something that you do as a hobby or whether it's your job. And the thing to work towards is to try to look at whatever it is in your life, whether it's a physical object or the abilities God gave you, and try to ask for the help and the wisdom to be able to see a way to use all those things in order to share His Torah and to do whatever you can to glorify His name. The one and only true creator of everything, not anyone else. Or anything else. The truth is, if what a person pictures in their mind is anything other than the absolute unity and oneness of a God, the only creator of everything, that has no form and no shape, and is the source of everything. If it's anything other than that, anything other than the only one and true God of Israel, what a person really does is they serve the Satan. I was thinking about this over the last few days. It's kind of if there was such a thing as irony, it would be ironic, but it's just more proof that the false testament talks about the synagogue of Satan, and it's funny but really sad that they're describing themselves, describing what would come out of those writings. Satan has lots of houses that are dedicated to his name unknowingly, from people of all walks of life. No matter which God they think they believe in, or whether they believe in, whether they admit that God exists or not. Over the last couple of months, I've had some kind of annoying things happen. In the past, I definitely would have raged about. They definitely wouldn't have been positive outcomes. Well, mainly because of God's great infinite mercy to grant me the strength and allowing me to do teshuva, was I able to handle them a lot better. I don't think any of them were really anything too serious. It's just, you know, just those things that happen in a person's life where, you know, they don't want, whatever it is to happen. It's an inconvenience that changes their routine or makes them stop and have to either take a step back or try harder until they break something, which I think is definitely what I used to do. Is try to, the nut's not going to turn. I'm just going to force it until the nut just snaps. The bolt snaps off. I'll show you. You're not the boss of me. I think that was definitely my default attitude anytime I ran into a problem in life. It's like, who are you? Do you know who I am? How dare you? I am the great no one, the great meat sack. I don't know if God laughs or not, but or what kind of emotion other than just kind of sadness and disappointment, as far as what a human could perceive when people act like that. And the whole point of all that stuff is to get us to just stop and shut up and to roll over and let God scratch our belly. And admit we are nothing. I'm on Jewish Hashkafa number 12 right now. Rev Reuben talks about about uh, about Job, about how he longs for the months before, when it was only him and God. He didn't have to rely on anything else. Didn't have to do anything. He said that's Joe was referring to when he was still just a pre-human, or a baby in his mom's stomach. When he had to put forth no istidlut, no effort. His parnasah was solely from God. Everything is provided: food and shelter, protection. With nothing to do all day other than learn Torah from the angels. And then as soon as a person is born, they have to start putting forth effort. Or maybe they don't have to, but that's the way the world works. And then God pulls back just enough so that we can thrash around a bit, to fight to breathe and move around, learn to crawl and then walk. And then unfortunately most people think that they do everything themselves, not realizing that our even what we perceive as the most great and intense effort, physically or mentally, is really just absolutely nothing. All we are is like a little marionette puppet. And the acts of creation and all the invisible strings, they just move us around depending on our, the thoughts in our mind. Really, all we are is just pieces of meat. Pieces of meat that walk around. Through the miracle of creation, God breathes life into us and makes these pieces of meat come alive. And as soon as our soul is plucked out, the meat returns to just being a piece of meat and starts the process of decay. It's a really nice day here today. The weather this year has been like the exact opposite of last year. At least seasonally or whatever. I think we only had to water like twice, maybe 3 times, but I think at least once or twice of those were just to put fertilizer on stuff. Last year, I think I'd already probably carried like a couple hundred gallons of water by now. So comparatively, I'm not in the best physical shape. I'm trying to push the limits of, or not, maybe not the limits, but I'm trying to push my emunah. One amazing thing about health and just the general secrets of life, and how a person can learn Torah from anything, is that a person can learn the concept of emunah from exercise. That there's a lot of people that are really into physical fitness of varying types. Whether it's like heavy weightlifting, like powerlifting and stuff like that, or whether it's like running marathons or different kinds of sports. But God put this phenomenon into creation where if a person really wants to be healthy, they don't have to do much. especially if they want to dedicate their life to trying to do His will more. Person knows they have to do some kind of effort to be physically healthy. But a person doesn't need to lift. They don't need to squat 300 pounds or to run marathons every month or 10Ks every week or whatever. They don't need to spend 3 hours playing sports. You just put out a maximum amount of effort. Doing pretty much anything. Running, squatting, push-ups, or whatever. Until you can't, you're about to, right before the edge of collapse. Then you stop and catch your breath and do it again. The person really only needs to do that for like 5 or 10, maybe 15 minutes at the most. Every couple of days at the most, really. Or if you do it less time, maybe every day. And then just move around a little bit during the day. And a person gets pretty much all the same physical health benefits that they would if they would exert, hours, at least as far as most people need. And as far as like emergency situations where it's some kind of drastic life-threatening thing like fire rescue or war or whatever, person doesn't need a whole lot of physical capability or even knowledge. Because if you're supposed to save someone, or if you're supposed to live, all you have to do is a minimal amount of effort, or at least put forth an effort. And if you're not supposed to save someone, or if you're not supposed to live, no amount of effort or knowledge or training will change that, ever. Like with self-defense with a firearm, a person doesn't need to train with thousands of rounds and go to classes and all that stuff. A person needs to know how a firearm works, how to operate it safely, how to point and shoot it. And most importantly, they need to have faith that they're doing what they should be doing. And faith that whatever happens is God's will. And they certainly can't change that with physical effort or training or intellectual education. I think I mentioned this in the past, though. Best way to survive anything, whether it's walking down the street or going to war, as doing teshuva. Because if a person doesn't have, if a person hasn't done teshuva, it's a miracle that they're just still in this world at all, just on a day-to-day basis. Let alone when something, something out of the ordinary occurs. So that's probably a good first step for everyone to take, so that you should live. I think I'm going to get something to eat, or I'm going to try to anyway, if I'm allowed. That's something else I've tried to refocus my efforts on. A little over a year ago, it seemed like my level of Yirat Shamayim and Emunah, my fear of heaven and my faith in God was like at just a wholly unnatural level especially compared to where I came, how low I was before. And then there was just something happened where it kind of went away. And I know to a certain degree why. Because I basically asked for it to go away because it was getting too scary for me. But I've tried to work my way back there. It's definitely not as easy as it was, or it didn't come as easy. It doesn't come as easy now as it did then. It's almost like I was like a different person for a while. It was weird. Really very strange. I hope you guys can all either start or work on your teshuva, guys and not guys, people. May He grant us all the strength to overpower our Yetzer Hara, to blot out the name of Amalek within our own hearts. To refine our midot, our character traits, to shun evil, to do good, to make ourselves humble enough to attain the wisdom so that we may know the difference between good and evil, with a great deal of His help. Talk to you guys later.